You're standing there, arm up, nothing in your hand yet, and before you grab a single weight, you do this one small thing first. That's it. That's the whole move. Your arms have been missing for years. Here's what I found out the hard way. The way you start your arm decides almost everything that happens after. Not the weight, not the machine, not the powder in the tub. The first 3 seconds, I spent years believing the opposite, and uh, I was wrong. I still remember the exact spot in my hallway, cold tile under my bare feet at 6 in the morning, where I tried this the first time and felt my whole arm light up like a switch had flipped. Two German researchers proved this in a laboratory in 1953, and their paper got quietly shelved while everyone else sold you machines. Stay with me, because I am going to hand you their method near the end, and you can do every bit of it right where you are standing now. No gym, no equipment, same room, same arm. Let me tell you why your arms have looked the same for so long, even when you tried. I used to think the answer was simple. Lift more, lift heavier, push harder. So that's what I did for the better part of a decade. I bought the membership, I bought the bench, I curled until my elbows ached, and I watched almost nothing change. My arms would get a little tired, a little sore, and then go right back to looking exactly like they always had. And I told myself it was my age. I told myself it was my genes. I told myself some people just get arms and some people don't. But that was a lie I had been sold, and I could not see it yet. Because here is the thing, nobody in that gym ever told me. When you swing into a curl fast, when you heave the weight up using your shoulder and your back and a little bounce at the bottom, your arm muscle barely does any real work. The momentum does it. You feel the burn, sure. But the burn is not the growth. The tension is the growth. And by starting fast and loose, I was skipping the exact part of the movement that actually builds the arm. The muscle only changes when it is forced to hold, to strain, to fight against something it cannot beat quickly. That is what starting your arm this way means. It means beginning from a dead stop with the muscle already under load before anything moves at all. It means the first 3 seconds are slow, deliberate, and almost painfully controlled. And the moment I started doing that, the moment I stopped throwing the weight and started fighting it from the very first inch, my arms did something in 3 weeks that they had refused to do in 3 years. It genuinely felt like cheating, like I had been given the answer to a test everyone else was still failing. But that feeling raised a much bigger question in my mind, and it bothered me. If this is so simple, if it costs nothing, if it works this fast, then why did nobody tell me? Why did I have to stumble into it by accident in my own hallway at 40-something years old? So I went looking, and what I found made me a little angry, because this method is not new. It is old. It is very old. And it was buried on purpose, or near enough to purpose, that the difference does not matter to your wallet. Let me take you back to the early 1900s, to a man named Alexander Zass. He was born in 1888, and during the First World War he was captured and thrown into a prison cell. No weights, no barbells, nothing but iron bars and chains and stone walls. And in that cell, with nothing to train against but the immovable, he built a body so strong that the legend says he bent the bars and escaped. They called him the Iron Samson. And in 1925, living in England, he published his method for the public. His secret was not lifting. His secret was pushing and pulling against things that would not move and holding that string, tension without motion. He built championship strength out of an empty prison cell. Now think about that for a second. A man with nothing built more real power than most people with a garage full of equipment. Therefore, the equipment was never the point. The tension was the point. A few years later, a man named Angelo Siciliano took a similar idea and became famous under a name you might know, Charles Atlas. He called his version dynamic tension, and starting around 1929, he sold it through the mail to millions of ordinary people, skinny kids, tired men, People who could not afford a gym and did not have one anyway. And it worked because the human body responds to strain, not to scenery. But here is where the story turns. And here is where I want you to pay close attention, because this is the part that cost me years and probably cost you years too. Right around the middle of the last century, the fitness business figured out something. You cannot sell a man a monthly membership to his own body. You cannot charge him again next month for tension. He creates himself with his own two arms. There is no refill. There is no upgrade. There is nothing to plug in and nothing to replace. So the whole industry quietly walked away from it. They pushed the machines, they pushed the memberships, they pushed the tubs of powder and the shiny chrome. And the simple, free, ancient method that built the Iron Samson got shoved to the back of the shelf, labeled old-fashioned, and left there to gather dust. You were not supposed to remember that your own arm, held under strain for a few seconds, is one of the most effective tools ever discovered, because a memory like that does not make anybody any money. And every single day that you did not know this, you kept paying. The membership you barely used, the equipment collecting laundry in the corner, the years of effort that went nowhere because you were throwing the weight instead of fighting it. That is the real cost. Not the dollars, though the dollars add up, the years, the time you cannot get back. But I promised you a laboratory in 1953, and now I am going to give it to you, because this is where the whole thing stops being a story and starts being proven fact. Two scientists in Germany, Theodor Hettinger and Erich Müller, ran a study that should be famous and somehow is not. They published it in 1953 in a scientific journal of applied physiology, and what they found was so simple it almost sounds like a joke. They discovered that a single muscular contraction held against resistance at roughly 2/3 of your maximum effort for about 6 seconds, done just once a day, produced a strength increase of around 5% per week. Let me say that again slowly, because I did not believe it the first time either. 6 seconds, once a day, 2/3 effort, about 5% stronger every single week. Now, I am a skeptic by nature. When I read that, my first thought was that it was too good to be true, the kind of claim that shows up on the internet with nothing behind it. But this was not the internet. This was a peer-reviewed physiology study from the early 1950s, replicated and cited for decades afterward. These were serious men in a serious lab measuring real muscle in real people. And they landed on something almost nobody uses today. The reason it works comes down to what tension actually does inside the muscle. When you hold a contraction at hard effort, you recruit the deep muscle fibers, the ones that fast, sloppy reps never even wake up. You force the body to respond, you send the signal to grow, and you do it without a single piece of equipment, without a spotter, without a gym, in the time it takes to read one sentence out loud. So I tested it on myself the same way I test everything before I ever tell you about it, because I have been burned by empty promises too, and I will not do that to you. Here is exactly what I did. I stood in a doorway. I raised my right arm to about the middle of a curl, elbow bent to a right angle, and I pushed the back of my hand up into the top of the door frame as hard as I comfortably could, not a violent jerk. A firm building, 2/3 effort. And I held it. I counted slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I let go. My arm was shaking, and it was the good kind of shaking, the kind that tells you the muscle just did real work, not the fake tiredness of 100 bouncing reps. That was it. That was the whole thing. No weight, no cost. 6 seconds against a door frame I already owned. Therefore, I want to stop right here and talk directly to you, because I know exactly who is listening. You might be thinking this is fine for younger people, or for folks with space and money and time. You might be looking around your home thinking there is no room for any of this, and no budget for any of this, and your body is not what it was anyway. I hear you. That was me. And I am telling you, this is the part that was built for exactly your situation. You do not need to change a single thing about your home to do this. You do not need to buy one item. You do not need to clear out a room or set up a corner or hide anything from anybody. Every tool you need you already own, and most of them are attached to the walls of the house you are sitting in right now. Let me give you 3, and you can start every one of them today. The first is the door frame, which I already showed you. Any solid door frame in your home becomes an unbeatable resistance machine. Stand in it, bend your arm, and press up or out against the wood at 2/3 effort for a slow count of 6. Your arm pushes with everything it has, and the house pushes back, and the house always wins. That losing fight is exactly what builds the arm. Do it once with the right arm, once with the left, and you are done. And that is a very inconvenient truth for anyone whose living depends on selling you the equipment. If you want to go deeper into exactly how these buried methods were rediscovered, documented, and laid out step by step in one place, I put all of it into a book series called First Fix, Deep Fixes, and System Complete. Everything in those pages follows the same principle you are hearing right now. No equipment, no membership, no monthly fee, just the honest old knowledge that got shelved when it stopped making someone else money. You can find the details in the description below. But the story does not stop there, and neither does the buried knowledge. The second uses nothing but a bath towel, the kind you already have folded in a closet. Grip one end in each hand. Now hold your right arm bent and try to curl the towel upward while your left hand pulls down against it just hard enough to stop the motion cold. Nothing moves, everything strains. 6 seconds. That is your own body providing the resistance, one arm fighting the other, exactly the way Charles Atlas taught millions of people almost 100 years ago with no equipment at all. The third is a simple kitchen chair, a sturdy one. Sit down, slide your hands, palms up, under the front edge of the seat. Now try to curl the whole chair upward with your arms while you stay seated in it. You cannot lift yourself off your own chair, of course. That is the point. The chair will not move, so all that effort pours straight into the muscle. Hold it for 6 seconds and let go. 3 tools: a door, a towel, a chair. Nothing bought, nothing installed. Nothing to renew next month. And here's what really got me once I had been doing this for a while. I stopped needing the gym at all for my arms. Not because I was being cheap, though I will happily take the savings. I stopped needing it because the results at home were simply better than the results I had spent years failing to get with all that equipment. The strain was more direct, the control was more complete, and I could do it in the 2 minutes it takes for coffee to brew in my own kitchen before the rest of the house was even awake. That is the freedom that was taken from you. The freedom to build a strong, capable body with nothing but the body you already have and the walls you already stand between. But I told you at the very start that I was saving the best for the end, and I meant it. Because everything I have shown you so far is powerful on its own. What I am about to tell you is the one detail that turns all of it from good into something that genuinely feels like cheating. This is the piece I found buried deepest, and it is the piece almost nobody talks about. It is not just that you hold the tension, it is where in the movement you hold it. It is the exact position your arm is in when the strain begins. For most of my life, whenever anyone did an isometric hold, they did it at the easy spot, the middle, where the arm feels strongest and most comfortable. That is the natural place to push, and it works a little, but the old strong men and the newer research both point to something almost the opposite of comfortable. The muscle grows the most when it is put under hard tension while it is stretched long, not bunched up short and cozy. Stretched, lengthened, pulled out near the bottom of the movement, where the muscle feels weakest and most vulnerable. That is the position that sends the loudest growth signal the body can receive. Think about Alexander Zass in that prison cell, gripping a chain at arm's length and straining against it with his elbow nearly straight. He was not training in the comfortable middle. He was fighting from the long stretch, difficult position because that was the shape his chains forced on him. He did not know the science. The prison gave him the science by accident, and it built one of the strongest men of his era. So here is the finale. Here is the exact way to start your right arm that pulls all of this together. Stand in your door frame again, but this time, do not bend your arm to the easy middle. Let your arm hang almost straight down. Elbow just barely bent, so the muscle on the front of your upper arm is long and stretched. Now turn your palm up and outward, so your thumb rolls away from your body. That small twist, that turning of the palm, wakes up the deepest part of the muscle, the part that gives an arm its shape and its peak. And from that long stretched, twisted position, press the back of your hand outward and upward against the frame at 2/3 effort. Slow, steady, 6 seconds. You will feel it in a place you have never felt an arm exercise before, down low, near the elbow. In the stretched fibers that every bouncing curl you ever did completely ignored. That is the whole secret. Start stretched, not bunched. Start with the palm turning up and out. Start against something that will not move. And hold for 6 seconds at 2/3 effort, once a day, exactly the way Hettinger and Muller measured in 1953, exactly the way the Iron Samson trained in a prison cell 100 years before that. The method existed. It built strong men and it saved skinny kids who mailed away their last few dollars for it. Then it got pushed aside so people could sell you something you had to keep paying for. But the men in that German lab wrote it down. The old strong men kept it alive in their courses and their yellowing pamphlets. And now it is sitting in your hands, in your hallway, in your kitchen, ready the moment you stand up. When I first strung all three of those pieces together, the stretch and the twist and the 6-second hold, I remember standing in that doorway and actually laughing out loud, alone, because it felt so unfair. All those years, all that money, all that effort thrown at machines, and the answer was a door frame and 6 honest seconds. Let me be straight with you about what to expect, because I will not oversell it the way they oversold everything to me. You are not going to wake up next week with different arms. That is not real, and anyone who tells you it is real is reaching for your wallet. What you will feel in the first several days is the strength. The grip that holds the grocery bags without complaint, the arm that lifts the pan or the grandchild or the bag of soil without that little twinge of doubt. The strength comes first, and it comes fast, right in line with that 5% a week those researchers measured. The look follows the strength over the weeks and the months, the way it always has for every honest method that ever worked. And the beauty of it, the thing that still gets me, is that you never have to pay for it again. Not next month, not next year. The door frame will still be there. The chair will still be there. Your own 2 arms pulling against each other with a towel between them will still be there. This is a method you own outright for the rest of your life, the moment you learn it. Nobody can shut it off. Nobody can raise the price. Nobody can let the membership lapse. That is what they took from you when they buried this. Not just a technique. Ownership. The plain old-fashioned ability to handle your own body with your own hands in your own house, the way people did for generations before somebody decided you should rent that ability back 1 month at a time. So tomorrow morning, before you touch anything, before you talk yourself out of it, I want you to stand in the nearest solid door frame. Let your right arm hang long. Turn the palm up and out. Press against the wood at 2/3 of everything you have, and count it out slow and steady 1 through 6. Then do the left. That is your whole start. 90 seconds. If you are being generous with yourself, and you will feel the way I felt on that cold tile in my hallway, the exact moment the strain reaches the part of the muscle that has been asleep your entire life. That feeling is not a trick. It is not a gimmick. It is your body waking up to work it was designed for and was quietly told to forget. I want you to sit with something for a moment before you go. For years, I believed my arms were a lost cause, that I had missed my window, that some people simply get to be strong and I was not one of them. And it turned out none of that was true. It was never my age and it was never my genes. It was that nobody had handed me the 6 seconds that changed everything. Now somebody has handed them to you. You strike me as the kind of person who is tired of being sold the same solution over and over, the kind who suspects, correctly, that the simple old ways usually work better than the expensive new ones. If that is you, then you already understand what this channel is really about. It is about taking back the plain, sturdy know-how that got traded away for things you have to keep paying for. Now, I want to hear from you, and I mean this specifically. Try the stretched door frame hold with the palm turned up and out. Hold it for your 6 seconds, and come tell me exactly where you felt it. Down by the elbow? Up in the peak? Somewhere you did not expect? Leave a comment and describe it in your own words, because I read them, and because the people who come after you need to know it is real from someone other than me. Do not just nod along and scroll away. Take 10 seconds and write it down. That small act helps more people find this than you would ever guess. And if some part of you felt that quiet spark of being handed back something that was taken, then come stand with the rest of us who are done renting our own strength and our own health from people who profited off our forgetting. This is a growing group of stubborn, sensible folks reclaiming the methods that never should have been buried. Because next time, I am going to show you the forgotten way the old-timers built a grip strong enough to crack a walnut in a bare hand using nothing but a single item you throw in the trash every week. You already own it. You have been tossing it out for years. And once you see what it does for the strength in your hands and forearms, you will never look at it the same way again. Stand up, find your door frame, give me 6 seconds, and I will see you in the next one. That's the overview, but the deeper version picks up right where we just stopped. Inside the Practical Wisdom Circle, I walk you through the immovable tension method, the full arm routine, step by step. When you get stuck, you ask me directly, a real person, me, answering you myself. You're not doing this alone. Old ways folks like you are already in there with me. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen, cancel anytime, one click,